Hello, everybody. We're going to get started here. First things first is I'm going to introduce myself. I'm Hayden's uncle. My name is Rick. Hi. uh, Welcome to come over and talk to me after I'm off of here. But the see lots of familiar faces here from Hayden's work gang, and so I'd just like to welcome everybody that's here. And one of Hayden's favorite things was sharing a laugh and sharing experiences. So I know that everybody that's in this room knows what I'm talking about when I say that. And he'd be happy to see everybody here. And I'd like to introduce Hayden's close friend Jeremy, who is going to be the MC for the service here, or for the celebration of life. We're all celebrating right now. And I just had a look up here at some of these pictures and whatnot, and it's pretty neat to follow Hayden's life and all the good times he had. Anyways, without further ado, here's Jeremy, Hayden's close friend.
Oh, don't clap yet. Thank you, Rick. Thank you to the Breeze family for giving me the opportunity to stand up here and talk to you about Hayden. You know, a question has bothered me for the last couple of years. And that question is, what's the point in not smoking? What's the point in living a good life? What's the point in eating healthy? What's the reward for being a good father, for being a good brother, for being a good husband, a good son? What's the point in being a good uncle, a good nephew, a good cousin? What's the point in being a good workmate? What's the point in being a good friend? And I think that to whatever extent there is a point, the point is us here, sad, hollow. You came here today because your life was improved by Hayden Breeze. Hayden's constant positive attitude and self-improvement is part of the reason that we had him for as long as we did. The fact that he fought as hard as he did has given us certain privileges. You know, he left instructions on what he wanted here today. Okay. He gave us this video, so we've paused it for now so that you all pay attention to me. But Hayden made the video. There's a version of it that we can share online. It's photos and videos. He wanted certain music attached to it. Our friend Ben has attached that music to it as well. So there's a version of it with the songs that Hayden wanted. We can't put that on YouTube, but we can share that with people if they want it. So reach out to us. He also gave very specific instructions about what he wanted today, including, in some cases, who he wanted to speak. And he demanded that it be funny. He wanted us to remember good times. He wanted us to tell stories and to think about his humor and his playfulness. So here we go. In 2001, Hayden and I were together, the two of us, in Cambodia, just before Christmas. And we made a day, we were in Phnom Penh, and we made a day of checking out things in Phnom Penh. So first we went to the killing fields. This is not the funny part of the story. And it was just a bunch of empty graves. And we wandered around there for a while, and then we went back to the parking lot where we'd left our two 10-year-old boys on mopeds that were driving us around. Because when you're a white guy in Cambodia in 2001, that's how you travel. Just trust me, it's how you travel. And so the kids on the mopeds, they were like, "What do you want to do next?" And we said, "Well, I don't know. Like, what is there to do?" And one of the kids said, "Well, we can take you to the place where they tortured people before we killed them." Before they killed them. And I looked at Hayden, and he was done. And I was like, "Okay, no more dying, please." And they said, okay, well then how about go-karts? I was like, go-karts? So I looked at Hayden and kind of shrugged, and I was like, okay, no, not go-karts. And he said, okay, how about you shoot machine guns? And I said, what? And he said, we can take you to the military base, and you can pay the soldiers, and they'll let you shoot the machine guns. So I looked at Hayden, and I said, okay. So we got on the mopeds, and they took us down to what I assume was a military base. Okay, there were a bunch of dudes in fatigues, and there was a helicopter a few hundred feet off the ground, and dudes were like parachute jumping out of the helicopter. And off to one side, there was like a wooden structure with a bunch of metal targets and a half a dozen white dudes shooting machine guns. And so they gave us a chaperone. Okay, so we had like a Cambodian guy in military fatigues. And he gave us a menu of like what we could shoot. So we shot a bunch of machine guns and we shot a bunch of pistols. And I remember very vividly when we were shooting. I think it was a Beretta, and we had 8 bullets each. And I went first, and there's like an area in front of us with these metal targets that would flip down. And I shot, and I hit the first 3, but I missed the last 5. Okay? And then Hayden went after me. And he missed the first 4, but he hit every one of the last 4. That bastard. Okay, and then as I was shooting, the soldier, he leans into my ear and he whispers very quietly. He says, "Would you like a chicken?" And I said, "What?" I said, "Would you like a chicken, dude? I don't know, drugs? Is this drugs? I don't know what you mean." And he said, "No, like." A live chicken. Like, you can buy a live chicken and we'll release it in the shooting range and you can shoot at it. And I looked at Hayden and I looked back at the guy and I said, "No, thank you. No, thank you on the chicken." And the guard, he threw his hands up in the air and he said, "Ah, you are Canadians." Americans always say yes to the chicken. So, I mean, the point of that story for me is not that Hayden was a better shot than me, but that he became a better shot than me methodically in the space of 30 seconds. Okay, that he applied that maniacal attention to improvement. Okay, in 30 seconds to become better at shooting a gun. The other thing is that, this story, like a lot of my stories about Hayden, involve me looking at him and then talking to someone else. And it's not because Hayden didn't want to do the talking, and it's not because I was better at the talking. It's because Hayden wanted me to get better at the talking. Does that make sense? Right? Like, he was like, "This is a moment that you don't realize it yet, Jeremy, but we're improving you. Right? We're working together to make you better at a thing." To give you a little bit more understanding of my relationship with Hayden, we met Hayden on a BBS. Okay? So this is like the internet before it got famous. Okay? So the bulletin board system in like 1995, setting up a game of Dungeons and Dragons. Okay? That's how I met Hayden. And we got a bunch of people together and we played the game of Dungeons and Dragons, and then I was driving everyone home. So I had the car, and as we were driving people home, and this is the first day I had ever met Hayden. Okay? As we're driving him home, we drove through, as good Canadians, we drove through A&W, and I relayed Hayden's order. He asked for 2 teens. Okay? And then a minute later, when I pass him the bag of food, he looks crestfallen, like absolutely crushed. And he said, "Burgers? I wanted girls." And then I drove him home, and we dropped him off, and he went into his house, and the door closed, and the other guy in the car with me, our friend Guy, he turned to me and he said, "I feel like I could spend a lot of time with that dude." And then we did. Hayden has made some requests in terms of who some of the speakers here, and so you can see on the program for today that it's been broken down into some stages. And so I'd like to invite his longtime friend Edward Walker to come up and to deliver some stories about the early years. We're okay. Sure. Okay. Yeah. Stand in front of the mic.
If I knew I had to follow Jer, I don't think I would have agreed to this. But with Hayden's passing, all we're left with are memories of his antics, his imagination, and his enthusiasm. I grasp at every one. I hold them tenderly in my heart until the present jolts me back, and I'm left with a future devoid of Hayden. Initially, I thought I would relate to you how I came to know Hayden these early years, how much he meant to me, how much he means to me, how I wouldn't be the person I am today without having known him. But I know that anyone who knows me, well, you already know all that. And so if you know, and I know, and you know that I know, you know, he wanted this to be a light and lively affair. So though I'm no John Cleese roasting the memory of Graham Chapman at his memorial, I'll give it my best shot. I could regale you with memories of our past adventures, the years of reckless youth growing up in Cougar Creek, dubious activities both over and under it. I could review the mischief we got up to living with Aaron at 4874 in Canmore. Aaron, they were always his ideas, I swear. I could recount a more seasoned reminiscence of our time spent traveling in New Zealand, mostly involving women. But no, instead, I will tell you of a game he once invented, a game he called Mop Puck. Yes, Mop Puck. Have you heard of it? Well, no, I'm not really surprised. It never caught on. We were living in his grandparents' house here in Charleswood. It was winter, and there was a little patch of ice that the community had made for skating just down the hill from us. I'd only recently come to live with Hayden after my failed attempt to move to England, and honestly, I was not doing well. But never one to dwell on the past, Hayden was looking for something fun for us to do. We'd both played hockey as kids, but here we were bereft of hockey sticks. For some reason, though, we did have a puck. And then we saw we had a mop. We had 2 mops. Voila, mop puck. I think we played it once. And not for very long. Isn't that a simple story? Not in and of itself that noteworthy? Yet this short and simple memory belies the beauty of it. It speaks of his creativity and his humor, of course, but more so it portrays his uncanny ability to take whatever crap was going on in my head, completely ignore it, and help me move on by having fun and living again. He introduced me to Jeremy, Ben, and Guy, who became great friends, lifelong companions, connected by shared travels and interweaving adventures, often with Hayden at the center of it all. He was inspiring and relentless, captivating and kind. He lived life well. We must now be steadfast and carry on. All wings report in. May we continue his legacy, living life, and find peace and solace in his memory.
Thank you, Ed. Now I'd like to invite up Yves Blais. So you probably heard, but stand in front of the mic.
Okay. So I did promise that I'd make it brief, but then I've got a few pages here, so we'll see. Thank you, Jeremy. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Yves Blais, as Jeremy mentioned, and I'm honored to be standing here in front of you today to share a little bit about Hayden and his work life. I've had the great privilege of working with Hayden for quite some time, all the way back to the start of my career at Colt Engineering, and his start at Colt Engineering also, and then more recently at Fortress Engineering for the last 6 years. Hayden and I first got to know each other back in 2010 when we worked together on a really large project. And I was as green as grass at that time, but I was so fortunate to have been paired up with Hayden on this project, who was already experienced and well on his way to becoming a very capable electrical designer. In the 2.5 years that followed, we worked on this project together. And after that, we kind of worked on and off together for the following 5 or 6 years, but always keeping in touch. We'd play badminton together on a weekly basis down in Ed's, the center down in Okotoks, and realized, okay, Hayden's a very capable badminton player. And we'd also get together regularly for lunch. And here I need to talk about lunch for a little bit, because for those that know Hayden well, we all know that he really appreciates good food. And so it was always up to Hayden to pick the spot for lunch. He thoroughly enjoyed researching, finding that great mom and pop shop or that hole-in-the-wall Greek or authentic Thai restaurant that hopefully had really good food. And nearly every meal would start with an analysis and a critique of the food, talking about the different flavors, the sweet, the heat, the salty, the savory. This is Hayden, right? And so, yeah, he also had a very special appreciation for sweet and desserts. And it wasn't until I came to meet his meet his dad Ray that came to realize that Hayden came by this pretty honestly. So, some of Hayden's favorites were baklava and tiramisu, which he can make up a pretty mean tiramisu himself. Topics of discussion at lunch would often include recent movies he'd seen, with Hayden going into great detail about the plot, special effects, cinematography, the character development, all of it. Again, Hayden getting into great detail on that. We would, of course, discuss project work, the technical mumbo jumbo of what we were working on. And then most recently, it was discussions about the surf boat and surfing, which we've seen come up, and it'll come up again today, I'm sure, because it was a big part of Hayden's later life. A few years back, Hayden converted an early model 2000s series Mumba wakeboarding boat into a fully custom surf boat. I distinctly recall how fanatical he was about getting the perfect wave. And as was mentioned already today once, he would spend countless hours researching on Reddit, joining wake surfing boat forums online, watching YouTube videos, all so that he could customize and make this boat as good as it could be and get that perfect wave. And so, he would research adding in water sacks to his boat, how many, where to put them, how much he could load up this boat safely. And he pushed it to the limit. He added his own plumbing system. He researched pumps, added an electrical system, backup batteries, automatic switches, overfill protection on the water sacks. He researched everything. And ultimately, this boat was one of the best surfing boats I've ever been behind, including better than some recent year wake setters. Like, it was awesome. And that's Hayden, right? Researching, getting down into the details, and really making it his own. So with this, as I mentioned, he became a wave expert, understanding everything that was needed to create the perfect wave, even to the extent of shuffling people around in the boat as we were going to perfect it. So for those that have been on the boat, you need to go to the front to make the wave a little longer, or at the back to make it a little shorter, a little steeper, And he was always tinkering with that to get it just perfect. And so the reason I mentioned this surfing story, because I know it'll come up again, is for a few reasons. One, because working on his surfboat and surfing were really his passion. And there were times where he'd come into my office where we should have been working. He would just bust in and start talking about his surfboat and what he was working on, erase stuff off my whiteboard that probably should have remained, and started doodling up what his plans were on the surfboat. And he would just get lost in it. It was fantastic. And the second reason I mentioned this is because it revealed something about Hayden, his technical, analytical, knowledge-seeking, and problem-solving skills. All applicable skills and abilities, which made him such a great electrical designer, as anyone and many people here who have worked with him can attest to. In his work, Hayden was one of the most skilled and well-rounded electrical designers that I had the privilege of working with. His knowledge, skills, and possessed a great attention to detail. He was reliable, trustworthy, efficient, and productive. He was kind, friendly, and a collaborative teammate. Always willing to teach others, as has been mentioned already today, and share his knowledge and experience. He was a mentor to junior designers and a very capable project lead. In short, he was someone that everyone liked to work with. Whenever you asked Hayden to take on a task, you could trust that it would be done efficiently, it would be done correctly. He would report back with any questions or to get any feedback, or simply just to come back and say that it was done and he was on to the next task. Hayden had an inquisitive nature. He was always asking questions, looking to expand his knowledge base. He was an intellectual and appreciated others who were a wealth of information and knowledge. Sean, Ryan, Nathan, you're all people that Hayden held in very high regard, and often the mentors that he would seek out for answers to his many questions. Hayden was a very punctual person. He arrived on time, he took lunch and returned from lunch at the same time every day, and he also left work on time. If it was 5 after 4, I knew that I'd probably miss my opportunity to catch Hayden before the day was done. Hayden worked to live, not live to work. That said, Hayden was a hard worker who delivered consistently. When he was at work, he was all in, as is most aspects of his life, all in, and expected those around him to do the same. Hayden was also very social in the office. Around him, he was also a very clear and intentional communicator, and someone that everyone generally liked to be around. He was especially good at explaining design concepts and details to others, often going into significant detail in his explanations, and even sketching it down on paper so that others could understand. Hayden had a sharp wit and a wry sense of humor. He enjoyed dishing out a good-natured ribbing, and he loved to laugh. Hayden saw the best in people. He got along with everyone. He was generally a kind and caring person. Everyone liked Hayden. For the past 6 months, since the Breezes moved up to Cochrane, Hayden and I had a consistent pattern of getting together every couple of weeks to eat some pizza. Crispy Crust was his favorite, and sometimes we'd do takeout. There was this particular Indian restaurant that he always sent me to. And so we'd have dinner, and then we'd play Radlands. And so Radlands is a one-on-one board game, super technical and analytical and complex. The best way I can describe it for those that aren't aware of it, it's like chess on steroids. And so for an engineer and someone like Hayden who's very technical, this was perfect. And so Hayden was very competitive when it came to board games. That analytical mind, always trying to discern the right tactic, the sequence of play, a negotiating scheme to gain the advantage, all of it to gain victory. Playing board games with Hayden and his family, and particularly his sisters, allowed for a glimpse into perhaps the most competitive side of Hayden that I had ever seen. Spending Canada Day long weekends at the Breeze family cabin in Windermere are some of the fondest memories that I have of Hayden. It was there that my wife, Carolee, and the kids really got to know Hayden. We got to meet Hayden's parents, Ray and Elaine. Grandma Elaine, as my daughters would come to know her. His sisters and extended family, and many of his childhood friends who are here today also. It was here that our family was introduced to the so many card games and board games that were near and dear to the Breeze family heart. Most of which we've purchased ourselves and are now our family favorites also. Games like Wizard, Sushi Go, Settlers of Catan, and most recently, Skull King and of course, Radlands. Playing all of these games will remind us of Hayden, will remind us of how much we miss him. Even while we miss Hayden, we miss having Hayden in our lives, and we'll continue to miss him every day. We can take solace in the memories that we've shared and created with him, and take comfort in knowing he is now in a better place. And even though he may no longer be with us in person, his spirit remains with us and looking out over us. Rest in peace, dear Hayden. So there's one more page. This was shared with me by Ryan Kuhn, mechanical design manager and partner at Fortress Engineering, and I wanted to share it with you also. Hayden was always very professional and a focused person. When Hayden had design-related questions, our interactions always covered what was needed for the project, but Hayden always liked going beyond to understand the why, the how, and the possible alternate scenarios that he might encounter, so that he would have the knowledge to be able to handle the next time and foresee the issues before they arrived. He was a very thorough person, and he continued to prove that through my professional interactions with him. I always enjoyed working with him, as I knew he was going to do a great job on his assignments, and he would help the rest of us keep up with him as well. He was a guy that everyone wanted to work with. When there were AutoCAD issues, he would always bring them to me after having tried everything he knew to try and fix it himself. When we found the solution, he was very interested in understanding how to fix it and watching every detail on it. He would go back and try it himself to make sure that he was covered and comfortable so that he could do it on his own. Hayden was a motivated person who always had plenty of time, who I always had plenty of time for, because he had a great attitude. He was also genuinely nice and thoughtful on top of his constant professionalism. A few years ago, we had a Game of Thrones pool in the Fortress office that Hayden organized and ran during the final season and prior to the final episodes, where we would choose who would survive the rest of the show. And it was almost like Hayden wrote the script for the show, as he had pretty much guessed everything correctly. I loved asking him what some of the scenes and about some of the scenes and relationships on the show were, because he knew every detail down to the family tree of each character. When Hayden was passionate for something, he was always all in. I cannot say I knew him well enough to witness his personal life much myself, but I am willing to bet that he cared a whole lot about everything he was involved in, and that especially included his loved ones. Very similar to how he conducted himself in the office. From what I saw and knew of him, An individual like Hayden is the kind of person that takes loving people to the highest level. In what I saw during his toughest times over the last couple of years, Hayden made sure everything was taken care of to the best of his abilities for everyone over and above himself, even if it was him who needed the most attention. When we had events in the Fortress office dedicated to him, he was always sheepish and extremely thankful, almost that he couldn't believe that we were doing this for him. There was no one that we could all ask for as a better guardian angel than Hayden Breeze. And we are all fortunate to have someone like that looking over us here today. We all have deep loss from our world, but definitely a spiritual gain from the guy winging it above us and making sure we're all being looked after. Thank you, Hayden, for all you did while you were here and all you're doing for us from beyond. Ryan Kuhn.
All right. Thank you, Eve. Thank you, Ryan. So, I'd like to invite up a couple of Hayden's sisters, Kaylee Breeze and Anastasia Breeze.
Hi, guys. Wait, is that too close? Hi. I'm Kaylee. I'm Hayden's favorite sister. I was stumped about what I was going to say here today because I'm not sure if I could do it justice of how much of an impact Hayden had on me. Oh, I can't look at you, Mom. Sorry. Core memory number 1. And this was a story relayed earlier today, but we're going to have my version. Hayden's babysitting. I was running to the TV room after being accosted by my older sister, Claire. Completely unprovoked. I definitely didn't do anything, and I'd like that on the record. I ran in to get saved at the TV room and said, "Hayden, she's trying to murder me." Deadpan Hayden looked over and said, "Listen, this is the Star Trek room, so if you're not here to watch Star Trek, you're going to have to get out." Core memory number 2, zip lines. Our house and our neighborhood was crazy. It was the 80s and 90s. It was feral children in the woods. Hayden had taken some of my dad's climbing equipment to the forest behind our house and set up zip lines between 2 trees. And I'm not sure if other people did it before me or if I was the dummy to do the zip lining. But Hayden convinced us, and he's like, yeah, it's going to be so much fun. Gets me in this zip line, and these are 2 trees, and it was a long distance, in my childhood head anyway. I start going down, and about halfway we realize I'm not as heavy as them, so I'm not going to touch the ground. So I go down and smack into the tree at the bottom. Just one of his many adventures with me. And he goes, "Oh, yes, we will have to make some adjustments." Core memory number 3, snowboarding. Hayden really got into snowboarding, so I got into snowboarding. He had convinced me that I would be able to be in the Olympics if I started early enough. He decided to teach me and my friend Catherine snowboarding and took us up to the top of Lake Louise. And he gave us what could only be considered as the shortest pep talk lesson in the history of lessons, us never having gone before. And then I remember specifically, I got a big pat on the back and see at the bottom. It took us half a day to get down that hill. And I still have the scar on my leg to prove it. Hayden introduced me to so many things. And that was the thing about him. When Hayden was into something, you couldn't help but get caught up in that passion. Through the years for us, it was snowboarding, fantasy books, Star Trek, Star Wars. In my 20s, it was an unhealthy amount of gaming, video games. And he told me, hey, there's this game called World of Warcraft, and you should just try it out. Hundreds of hours later, we had so much love for movies and books, comedy, anime, board games, and travel. After I went to Thailand, I came immediately home and told them, get on the bus, get over there. It's going to be a great time. Okay, sorry. None of that, though, really compared to his love and passion for surfing. Jeremy said it was okay if I just cried the whole time up here. And when he was in the hospital, I asked him if he had any regrets. And, at this point, I'm like, you want to go bungee jumping? I'm there. Like, we'll do it. And he said, no. Then he said, wait, actually, yeah, I do. My regret is that I didn't teach more people surfing. And I said, buddy, like, you got us all in there. You'd be pulling people off the streets to try and get in there. Like, he just loved it so much. Hayden truly enjoyed sharing his passion, and you couldn't help but get caught up in that wave of enthusiasm. He even got my sister Claire up on the waves. What transpired was Hayden and I laughing the hardest we have ever laughed. Yeah, it's on the video. I will make sure everyone gets a copy of that. I think it should be seen by everyone. What was it like being Hayden's sister? For me, it was having someone I just admired and looked up to. He was a steady force in a whirlwind that is 3 chaotic sisters. He was the single reason our family gift exchange got so out of control. Every year, I'd say to him, hey, Hayden, because I planned the gift exchange. Hey, Hayden, you like that? How was it? Was it good? And he'd go, yeah, that was great, Kaylee. But I think it could be better. Last year, Imogen and I dressed up as male sports announcers with fake mustaches, all because I wanted to make it a little bit better. And that's what he did. You always wanted to make it just a little bit better and be a little bit better. I think grief and gratitude really go hand in hand. And if you can appreciate what you had, maybe it won't hurt as much. Deep breaths, guys, deep breaths. And I had the best movie partner. I had the best raid leader. And I had the best Radlands rival. And I had the best surf coach. Because I had the best brother. And if love could have cured you, Hayden, you would have lived forever. Because you were so loved. And now I can go throw up. Here you go, Stace.
No, stay here. Hi. Hello. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay. I can't hear that you can hear me. It's weird. You made me cry. Oh, okay. I'm gonna cry, sorry. Okay, so first I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to my sisters, Kaylee and Claire, for their tremendous efforts in organizing this beautiful memorial. Kaylee for taking charge of the funeral arrangements, and to both of you, thank you for organizing and decorating. I wish I could have done more. My son was so sick, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I'm gonna try and pull myself together. Whoa. Thank you all for being here today. Thank you so much for coming, for traveling here. Your friendship, love, and shared memories with Hayden, laughing, surfing, gaming, and living life filled with his world. And living life filled his world with joy and excitement. Thank you to my uncle Rick for helping him get his first job and always supporting Hayden with respect and laughs and all the love. Hayden's laugh was contagious, and I can hear it right now. Thank you to anyone that donated on the GoFundMe or fundraised. Thank you for the flowers and words of condolences. Thank you for caring about my dear parents, sending messages and reaching out. My family appreciates you so much. Okay, now I was supposed to talk about surfing, but I have other things I like to talk about too. Hayden was an incredible brother. Growing up with him was always an adventure. I remember when I was 5 or 6, he would pick me up and lay me over his knee and shout, "Here comes the backbreaker!" Ah! He watched too much WWE at the time. His enthusiasm for life, especially for sports, was infectious. I remember when I was 10 and he took me to teach me how to snowboard. He said, "You got to try it, Stace. It's going to be the next best thing on the ski hill." And that's when I first learned how to snowboard. Hayden loved snowboarding for many years. Years later, when I was 18, he insisted I try Kung Fu, and he even paid for my lessons because I couldn't afford them at the time and really wanted me to try it. Hayden's passion for sports and the things he loved was something he wanted everyone to share. I think he got that from my dad, too. A few years ago, Hayden and my dad were talking about getting a boat. Greg suggested a wake surf boat because it felt like snowboarding on a perfect POW day. That was all Hayden needed to hear. He said to Dad, "We need a wake surf boat." We all bought our first boat together. We named it Pan Pan. Pan Pan is the distress call where you're not Mayday, but you're Pan Pan. We spent countless hours on the lake, 275 hours on that first boat, learning to surf and enjoying every moment. Hayden was always trying to create the perfect wave for us, always trying to make it better and bigger. And even after we put the boat away for the season, he would call me to talk about next year's surfing plans. We had sessions when I was about 2 months postpartum where it was getting super dark outside. So Hayden said to me, "Stace, duct tape these glow sticks to my head so that you can see me in the dark while we're surfing." I said, "Okay, Hayden, whatever you want." Hayden was so happy these past 2 summers when everyone came out to learn to surf with him. He literally wanted everyone at the lake house to enjoy the great feeling that he had when he was surfing. He made a wonderful new friend named Brian out there off of Reddit or one of these websites that he would go on to share technical details. And they became great friends as well. He couldn't be here today. Hayden's love for life extended to everything he did. I remember when I was working in Calgary and I won a competition to go to Comic-Con and meet the cast of Star Trek, The Next Generation. Knowing how much I knew Hayden loved the show, literally kicking Kaylee out of the TV room, he would watch all the time after school. I invited him. He selflessly insisted I take Ed Walker, his best friend, who loves Star Trek even more than him. He said I couldn't do that to Ed. That was Hayden, always thinking of others. He also had a great sense of humor. He always sent me links to hilarious Japanese game shows. "Oh, Japan," he'd say, after watching a silly clip or two. He loved quirky and funny shows and was always recommending something new. Like the time he told me to watch Lobster. Just to frickin' troll me. Have you seen Lobster? Oh, you gotta watch it. Har har, as Hayden would say, and I still don't get that show. One of my memories is meeting up with Hayden in Thailand and discussing the merits of bidet toilets. He couldn't believe we didn't have them in Canada and was so pleased when I had one installed at our parents' house. He called Oklahoma just to tell me what a great thing it was that I installed the bidet. A clean tushy. So I've actually brought 3 bidet toilets here because Hayden would like everyone to enjoy bidets. And you're welcome to take one home with you. No joke. For real, he wants some. If you have a toilet that's in need of a bidet, you go right ahead. He would love that. Hayden always made time to stay connected with me and my sisters and my parents. He would call or email just to check in and see what stories I had to share. He was a great brother, patient and poised, with a wonderful sense of humor and a heart full of love. I even named him after my child, out of respect and admiration. I'm hoping my child can be like Hayden. Hayden loved the Muppet Show. I got my earrings.
And if you guys want to, like, you're welcome to sing along if you know the song. It's called Rainbow Connection from the Muppets. And the Muppets, obviously, as Anastasia was saying, is very important to him. And the Rainbow Connection is about finding, going for that dream or that passion. And, like, just as Kermit left the swamp, that's the. But yeah, I guess we're ready to start. You can play it a little louder. Why are there so many songs about rainbows? And what's on the other side? Rainbows are visions, but only illusions. And rainbows have nothing to hide. So we've been told, and some choose to believe it. I know they're wrong, wait and see. Someday we'll find it, the rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me.
Who said that every wish would be heard and answered when wished on the morning star? Somebody thought of it and someone believed it. Look what it's done so far. What's so amazing that keeps us stargazing? And what do you think we might see? Someday we'll find it, the rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me. Oh, we'll find it, the rainbow connection.
That's the end. Oh.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. There's some food at the back. There's things that you can come up here and see. Is there anyone who wants to tell a story about Hayden? Is there anyone who wants to take advantage of the open mic? Oh, come on up. Yeah. This is another of Hayden's childhood friends. Stand in front of the mic.
Okay. I'm Erin. And I grew up with Hayden and Ed in Canmore. I want to start by publicly thanking Ray and Elaine for buying the Bow Valley Motel when we were just before grade 12, leaving Hayden with an entire house to himself, which became the scene of most of the best memories that I have from growing up. I am a crier, so I'm going to do my best. Okay. The part of us that forms when we're teenagers, feeling and experiencing things for the first time, is very dramatic, profound, and exciting. It creates the core of who we grow to become. It's our family that sets the stage, true, but it's those friends and experiences we have as teens that is the show. We grow to mature and learn and change, but there is a bedrock that is formed in those years, and it creates the foundation of who we become. In the foundation that is me, Hayden was a cornerstone of that. I've tried to find a way to describe what my relationship with Hayden was, and who he was to me, but there just really isn't a way that even approaches the truth of it. I want to tell you all of the stories and tell you all of the ways that he is woven into who I am, but any attempt just falls completely flat and short. What I can say is, can somebody bring me some Kleenex? Yes, thank you. What I can say is that Hayden made me feel safe, and he made me feel seen and known, and he made life fun, like so fun, at a time where my life was not very fun. Fun was hard to come by. He loved nothing more than creating situations to bring his friends together. And because he knew us so well, you're talking about how he was with the boat and the wave, and that's what he was like with his friends when we were younger. So he could manipulate us in the best possible way so that you could have more fun than you could even possibly have imagined. And we would go along with it because that laugh was everything. So I want to tell a story which to me epitomizes who Hayden was. And it also, okay, so I think it was like 1997. So I lived with Hayden 2 different times. Once with Ed, like immediately after graduating. I graduated maybe a week later. Hayden's like, so we're going to move out. There was no question. I was like, what do you mean? Well, me, you, and Ed will move out. Like, what? Not on my radar at all to move out. But he just assumed that Ed and I would say yes, which of course we did. And we lived together. A second time, I lived with Guy and Hayden and my brother in Vancouver. And Despite the fact that Hayden blew most of his savings on a really great suit, he didn't get a job in Vancouver, and he had to leave, which was really devastating. But shortly after that, he had this plan to go to West Edmonton Mall with a group of friends as a surprise for Ed. So one thing you need to know about Hayden is, especially when we were young, and I think it actually stayed, he loved nothing more than surprising Ed. So here's the scene. We're gonna go to West Edmonton Mall. Ed was living in Calgary. Yeah. And we're gonna go to West Edmonton Mall. We're gonna stay in the Fantasy Hotel. We're gonna go to the amusement park and the water slides and do the whole thing. And it's gonna be so fun. How are we gonna get Ed to Edmonton, West Edmonton Mall as a surprise? Well, that's no problem. Jeremy, who he was always convincing to talk, Jeremy will be able to talk Ed into it. And he did, but here's the thing. Ed is quick to anger. And I think that's part of why Hayden really loved. Yeah. He was so good at like pulling us out of our stuff to just have fun. So we were all gathered at West Edmonton Mall. I flew in from Vancouver. Hayden paid for it because I had no money, but that's not a reason to not come. We've got to do this. There we were gathered at this fancy restaurant in the middle of West Edmonton Mall, and Ed walks in with Jeremy, and Ed is not impressed. Really, because why are we coming to Edmonton for dinner? He thinks it's just him and Jeremy. But we're there at the table, and we've all decided to get a drink to hold up to toast to Ed, which we did. And Ed promptly kind of collapsed to his knees because he was so surprised. And Hayden was just like, that's it. That's what I live for. That moment, bringing Ed out of his seriousness and anger to feel how much his friends love him. And that was what Hayden did all the time as teenagers into our 20s and up until last summer when we got a chance to spend the last summer with him out at the lake. So when Hayden called me to tell me that he was sick, I felt like the world was kind of opening up because I just simply cannot imagine a life without him. It's these things you take for granted that he's just always going to be there. And it feels like when somebody who knows you so completely is gone, does that it's hard to kind of recognize myself in some ways. But I know that he's so woven in to who I am and to the relationships that he was so adamant about bringing together. So I feel really confident that there will be wheezy weekends in the future that we can just laugh and remember. So thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. Yeah, for the record, Ed had no idea until he walked into the restaurant. We drove from Calgary to Edmonton, and I had his overnight bag in the trunk. It was excellent. All right, is there anyone else? Is there anyone else here who'd like to tell a story about Hayden? Oh yeah, come on up. Great. Yeah, just introduce yourself and stand in front of the mic.
Hello, I'm Messias. I'm Hayden's niece. I would, I would like to share a story about me and Hayden at the lake house. Hayden it was my first time in the boat because I have a really bad fear of water and I was terrified of the ocean and anything like deep in water. But Hayden and my mother pushed me and pushed me over a course of 3 years to go and try the boat. And when I finally did, I had so much fun. And Hayden was so passionate about me learning how to like surf. He was an incredible man. And I just wanted to say like how much he meant to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Osias. Anybody else? Anyone who wants to? Is it you? All right. You want to say something? Yeah, come on up.
Hello. The only me here today. I want to take you through my journey as growing up, become a player of Roblox. We know about yes, I know the memory that we saw her. However, if we know the truth is among us in our hearts, the Hayden is ascending to heaven. However, they know it's me and trust in me that we all know. They will respect it. And I know what this means. And no matter, he grew up in. He was born in. He was born in June 20. He was born in June 1. And he was born in June 200. And two. Was born in 22. Born in. He was born in. And he was born in 1976, June. Yeah, June 22nd. So that me, and he died in Thursday, May 2nd, 2024. As we all know, the truth is among us. And finally, the last part where I know that is becoming a player in Roblox. I hope I his first gameplay. The first game that I play is build the boat how to treasure. And time I went to Bluescape 2. I found out there are more flood games. Not yet. Anyways, we should be able to trust him. We decided that we know. No. In 2023, yeah, the first FE2 highlights were supposed to be it, enough. We need don't. You're gonna corrupt my memories. Anyways, I know the trust is always knowable, and further ado, the truth is beyond your imagination and your mind. Though I noticed that we all know, and the truth is really knowable. And finally, the remnants of remnants of Roblox and Minecraft. We know, and this is what we know. Rest in peace, Hayden Breeze. Thank you.
Thank you, Malachi. Anyone else? Anyone else want to tell a story about Hayden? Any hands? Oh, are you coming up? Okay. The other sister.
I am Claire, Hayden's favorite sister. Just because everybody's been talking about the whole surfing thing and everything, and as my family knows, that's my like least favorite thing, and had a very terrifying experience with. I would actually like to talk about Lady D and how much fun Lady D was and how happy I am that Hayden did everything for Lady D. So for those of you who don't know, maybe some work colleagues and things, Lady D was the, what is that thing called? Electric golf cart that he spruced up. He took an old one, spruced it up, and Lady D's actual official name is Lady Diamond Glitter Sparkles. And I love that Hayden and Corey had kind of taken Lady D and created it together for the family. Hayden did all the electrical work and, got it fine-tuned with all the music. So we had the buttons with the funny little, different musical bouts, and that Corey did all the decorating and did the cushions and put it all together. And I thought it was just, for me and for all my budding drivers, and what we, when we would take it even on the ice in the wintertime, please don't tell him. We just had the most fabulous memories just because of Lady D. So yes, surfing was great and the boat was great. But I will personally take home and will always cherish our memories of Lady D. Thanks.
Thank you, Claire. Anyone else? I want to show of hands. Okay, well, if you're not comfortable telling a story about Hayden up here, I encourage you to tell those stories at your table. Okay, so you're welcome to stick around here and chat for a bit. If you don't know everyone at your table, introduce yourself to the people at your table. Hayden demanded it. It was in the notes. And big thanks to Claire and Kaylee for putting this together. Okay, huge amount of effort went into this. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so help yourself to some of the food around the room. Have a look at the, okay, sorry.
Because we have Hayden's bike lock, and he did not leave the combination. No,
And it's a word?
It's a word.
It's a
It's
word.
a four-letter word combination. And as you guys all know, I love puzzles and I love this sort of thing. And I was like, oh, how can I turn this into a competition? Well, I would love for whoever can, the first 3 people to solve this, get to take home a bidet. Because I feel like there shouldn't just be like a run-up for it. I feel like you need to do a bit of work for it. So I'm going to put this with the bidet. And if you solve it, then you can come. But you can't tell anybody. A few people at my table already know it. So good luck.
Yep. So thank you all for coming. Thank you very, very much for showing such a wealth of support and a wealth of love for Hayden here. I know it matters to everyone who loved him to see that so many other people felt the same way. Like I said, so we're going to put the video back on. Again, just so you remember, these are photos and videos that were selected by Hayden. There's no audio, so you can't hear Hayden asking for an apple. You can't hear Kaylee and Hayden laughing. You can't hear the 20-second sound that Claire makes when she gets up on a wave for the first time. So there is a version that of that you can get if you want to reach out to the people here who are connected. So there's also, I think, this has been live streamed, and I think a version of this will be available at some point to the family. So if you wanted that or you wanted to show it to somebody else, it's available. So please stick around, chat with the people at your table, and let's all remember Hayden today.